You can tell how many of these videos I have recorded back to back by how just out of fucks to give my hair is. Hello, BookTube. Now, usually I do monthly wrap-ups of what I've been reading because I only read like 3 books in a month, and that's really great. However, 2017 has started out really well for me. It's the 8th when I'm recording this, and it'll probably be the 9th when I post it. But already, just in the first week of January, I have read 4 things, which is crazy. Actually, it's not. I've been spending way too much time reading and not enough time writing. But whatever, I've read some really great things. I figured I'd do a quick little like week 1 wrap up and also mention what I've been working on. The first thing I read in January, I technically started it the last couple days of December, but I finished it on January 1st or 2nd, and that was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So for anyone who's been watching, I've been reading the Harry Potter books for the first time ever this winter. I started in October and finally got to Half-Blood Prince this month, and I have the 7th book on hold, and I'm really hoping that it comes into the library for me and I'm able to read it before the end of the month because, oh my god! Now, I like the first book in the series quite a lot. I think it's a really, really well written book. I think the second book is okay. Books 3 and books 5, yeah, book 3 and book 5 wasn't a huge fan of. Book 4 was okay, but the middle books have kind of been second book syndrome for me. I haven't really been enjoying them, and I really didn't like Order of the Phoenix all that much, but this I could not put down. And let me tell you something, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. I think this movie has a lot of potential, but something went wrong with the way it was scripted. And I think one of the big things is that there's so much more character development for the romantic relationships and just for Ginny Weasley in general. And that's great because, oh my gosh, I love Ginny Weasley. There was a couple things in this book I didn't like. This is terrible. I love Molly Weasley in the movies. I don't really like Molly Weasley in the books. I like her a little bit, but she's kind of an asshole to other women, specifically young girls. She's a jerk to Hermione in book 3 for no good reason. And she's an asshole to Fleur, who, I get that Fleur's a little bit annoying at times in this book. Like, I get it, especially at Christmas. But we know Fleur, to some degree, from book 4, right? We know that for the most part, she's a fine person. She's a nice enough gal. She's very smart. She was never going to win the Triwizard Tournament, but, you know, she gave it her best shot, and she was pretty nice to Harry through that entire book. So we know that Fleur is like an okay gal. And when we first see her in this book, she's really not being all that annoying, but everyone hates her. Like, there's so much girl-on-girl hate in this book, and they all hate her because she's pretty? What? That's such bullshit. And then Fleur is a little bit annoying at Christmas time, but you take it in the context of she's been at the Weasleys or with the Weasleys for half a year. Yeah, summer to winter, so half a year, and they've been treating her like shit. And Molly specifically has been treating her like shit and trying to break her up with the guy that she's in love with. Like, yeah, you know, if you were in that position, you'd kind of be a bitch back too. So I don't really blame her for kind of being extra annoying at Christmas time because they're all being rude. Okay, I'm gonna stop now because that really bugs me in these books. But otherwise, that aside, I really liked the fact that we actually got to see Fleur. I'm super glad we got to see more of Ginny Weasley because, like, there's actually reasons why she and Harry like each other. They're not explored in the movie at all, but, you know, they are in the book, and I really like that. I don't ship Hermione and Ron. Maybe something in the next book is gonna change that, but I don't really see it. I think Hermione could do better. I don't really like Ron either. That's probably one of the other things, is he's kind of just an asshole. He's kind of just an asshole from book 1 to now. He's not like the biggest asshole, but he is one. And I heard something the other day that makes me think maybe he has some character growth in the 7th book, so I'll reserve final judgment until I read that one, but it's probably why I don't ship them. I just don't like him very much. And here's the other thing, like, I can't help it. I think all of the books would be like way more interesting if they were just written from Hermione's point of view. I still feel that way. But I will say, at least in this book, Harry was a lot less irritating. Harry was a lot less dumb. He was a lot more focused, and I appreciated that. I liked the little glimpses into Dumbledore's character that we got. I thought those were really great. This was a fun read. I've spent too much time talking about it, but I really enjoyed it. And I think this is the first one since the first book that I've given 5 stars to. Second thing I read in January is Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is part of my Jane Austen read-along. I'll leave a link to the Goodreads group down below. This was a reread. I've read it a couple other times. I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I love it. It's my second favorite Jane Austen, and I've got a whole video wrapping up the first 3 Jane Austen novels that I've read this winter. So if you want to hear more about my thoughts on this book, go check that video out. Oh, and both of those books and this next book were on my TBR for this month, which is like even better. I've got one thing left to read on that TBR, and I'm reading it right now. So I think I'm gonna read like everything on my TBR, assuming I can get the Deathly Hallows before the end of the month. Yeah, I'm doing really great. I'm doing so great. The next thing I read in January was a nonfiction book called Mirage by Nina Burleigh. And it's about, okay, so I got this book because I want to write a novel about archaeology in space. And I don't really know a ton about archaeology, so I was thinking, oh, I'll get some nonfiction books about like archaeologists and archaeological finds, and I love Egypt, so I'll get Egyptology books, and it'll be fun, multi-purpose research / enjoyment. This book was not what I was expecting. I thought this was going to be about the archaeological find of the Rosetta Stone in Egypt and digging up Egypt, and it was. It does touch on early archaeology and stuff. It's about the French invasion of Egypt, though, in 1798, and it chronicles the roughly 3 years that the French controlled Egypt before they were pushed out. I knew some of this history because I've read a couple books about Cairo and Egypt in general, so I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know a ton about it, and this does go into pretty good detail. It roughly chronicles 10 of the scientists / soldiers, because there is a chapter dedicated to Napoleon, who were involved in the expedition. It was a joint military and science expedition, and there was like 120 scientists from all different fields who accompanied Napoleon. When it profiles each of those different people, it follows kind of the work that they did in science while they were in Egypt. And so it delves into things that aren't necessarily archaeology, like land surveys and engineering work and reproduction work, like industrial reproduction, because they lost all of their instruments and scientific equipment before they even landed. So they had to like build a bunch of stuff while they were in Egypt. And it also talks a lot about the military campaigns when they first landed and invaded, when they were trying to take different towns in Egypt, when Napoleon tried to push east and take Syria. Napoleon eventually fled Egypt and left everyone behind, and kind of what happened when his generals were left to continue the campaign. It was not helpful for my book at all, but it was a really interesting read. It was a really easy, quick read. I think I gave this 4 stars. I recommend it. It's great if you're interested in that topic. And then the last thing I read on ebook, which I'll put a picture of. And I checked this out from the library, and it's called Of Hell and High Water by Charlie Cochet? I don't know how to say her last name. And it's a romance novel put out by Dreamspinner. It's the first book in the 3rd series, I believe. And I got it because I write shifter paranormal detective stories, and this is a shifter paranormal detective story, and so it's kind of in my genre, and it sounded kind of interesting. Oh, and it's really popular, so I figured, I'll see what other people are writing in the genre. I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't a huge fan. I liked the concept. I liked the idea. I kind of liked the world, though I'm not a huge fan of shifter stories that aren't just werewolves. I like werewolves, and that's kind of it. But my big problem was the main character. I just didn't like the main character. The plot and the themes were really serious in this book because it deals with murders and a murder investigation, and it deals with political tensions and racial tensions, basically. And they're all really serious, and it also deals with like grief and loss and real huge upheaval, personal upheavals. But the protagonist spent the entire time acting like he was a character on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which, if you don't know, is a comedy cop show starring Andy Samberg. That's really funny. Like, I actually really love Brooklyn Nine-Nine because it's funny, it's satirical, it's extremely biting. It makes a lot of stinging, blunt commentaries on the relationship of the public and the police and like racial shit and all that kind of stuff, which is, you know, really relevant to what's going on in America right now. So it's a really good show. But the show is a comedy, and this book is not presented as a comedy, but the protagonist acts like he's in a comedy. And so there's this weird dissonance between what I expect and what's actually happening on the page. And the other big problem is like he's trying to be funny, and I just didn't find it funny. And I think when you read a book that to you is trying too hard to be funny and is failing at that, it's such a glaring white elephant in the text that you can't unsee it. So yeah, I wasn't a big fan. Also, if I never read about a character chuckling again, it'll be too soon, because literally everyone in this book chuckled about every other paragraph. And I really wish an editor had just cut some of those chuckles. So it was okay. Not really my cup of tea. Someone else might find it really funny and really engaging. I think a lot of people do. That's what I've read so far this week. On top of that, I've been writing, though not as much as I should. I really have been reading more than I've been writing, and that's bad. And so I think the reading will slow down as the grindstone writes more, but I'm really excited about what I'm writing. I'm working on book 4 in the Blood and Bone Quartet, previously known as the Blood and Bone Trilogy. This is going to pick up about a month or two after the end of Symbiotic Law, and it's going to deal with examining the fallout from that book. And so far it's been a lot of fun to write. I mean, it's dealing with a lot of painful issues because Ethan and Pat have a lot of things to work through after the end of that book, but it's been a lot of fun to get back to writing these characters that I spent so much of my formative writing career with, and to just examine their story again. And yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully I'll have the end of the first draft done by the end of this month, if I stay on track or if I get back on track. I'm kind of looking at maybe a early March release date for this book, so stay tuned. If you want a little bit more frequent book updates, you can follow me on Twitter, you can follow my blog. For anyone watching this who liked Medium Rare, just so you know, the second book in the Profane series is on pre-order currently on Amazon. It's going to be released on January 30th, so at the end of this month. So you have the whole month to pre-order it. Anyways, that's what I've been reading. That's what I've been writing. How is your January starting off? Are you having a good reading month? What are your goals for 2017? Let me know in the comments down below. And thanks for watching.